Jalvishtvad Paramahans Pervrajakacharyas Tadashisamad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Srinatai Gora Hare Ki, Shri Srinatai Sachi Sutta Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Good devotees meditate here.
Just a sec, devotees.
Okay.
Right. Yes, well, it's really nice being here with you. And the subject, how did you put it? I mean, I know it's about deities, but how did you put it?
Transcendental form.
Oh, that's nice. The transcendental form of the Lord. That's very nice. So let us just find a verse. Yeah. Here is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us read it. See if I can find the verse number. I don't have the verse number, but anyway, it's in the 11th canto. It's the chapter in which Lord Krishna instructs Uddhava about deity worship and the deity form of the Lord. Let's first of all just repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so let us read this verse then from the 11th canto. And it's Lord Krishna speaking. Buryapya bhakto paritam name toshaya kalpate gandho dupa sumanaso dipo nadyam chakim puna. And the translation. Even very opulent presentations do not satisfy me if they are offered by non-devotees. But I am pleased by any insignificant offering made by my loving devotees. And I'm certainly most and I am certainly most pleased when nice presentations of fragrant oil, incense, flowers, and palatable foods are offered with love. I hope you can all hear. You can hear Gokuleshwari David Esse? Clear? Loud and clear? Okay, good. Well, that's nice. Isn't that a nice verse? I mean, sure, a very sort of pointed verse that Krishna's not really so, I mean, for himself generally, put it that way, Krishna's generally not so worried, concerned, even interested what may be offered to him. I mean, just for his own, you could say his own pleasure, his own personal purposes, if it's offered without real love. Yes, because, whatever it is, like these different things mentioned here, different things which he mentions here, fragrant oils, he's got the very best of those types of things. Incense, he's got, really the very best. Here in South Africa, if you go to, in Durban at least, to Harry BCAIS. You've heard of Harry BCAIS? Well, that's interesting. He has a range of incense, and it's okay. But that's about all it is. It's not really that good. You know, some of these super specialists who make these things in India, yeah. And some of these oils, these fragrant oils, in our center in Santon, in the mornings and the afternoons or early evenings, we have japa programs. We chant together and we broadcast, just like we're broadcasting now. And at the end, we distribute a little Mahaprasadam, and then, well, at the moment at least, we have a small bottle of oil, which is remnants from offerings to Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan in the Krishna Balaram temple. And it's, I would say, if Harry BCAIS is okay, then this is quite good. But there is better also, but it's quite good. So when it gets rubbed on usually on the wrist, on the top or the bottom, then even you wash your hands, even if you have a shower, you can still get the fragrance. Yeah, I know what they use there in Vrindavan. Oftentimes you can still smell it the next morning. Yeah, even after you've had a couple of showers and washed your hands, a few times and so on. So there are different grades. So, yeah. So anyway, my point is that Krishna anyway, he gets the best because he owns everything. It all belongs to him. And flowers. I remember in the Radharanath temple, we'd come back from the programs in the evenings, pre-COVID, we would have programs almost every evening of the week out, some Namahata or someone's house. And we'd walk in, and some call it night queen, but it's night blooming jasmine. You can smell it like it almost knocks you over from 25 meters away. That's the real thing, not like some of the flowers you buy. They got no fragrance whatsoever. So that Krishna has all the best, all the palatable foodstuffs. Krishna is being offered very palatable foodstuffs in our bigger temples, like in Lenasia, Nitai Gaur Hari, and in Durban, a Radharanath temple. They're being offered foodstuffs 6 times a day. In the morning, Mangalarti, like 4-ish, 4:15. Well, the offering's about 4:10. And 4 types of milk sweets, and plenty of them. Yeah, Pira, Sandesh, Rasmalai, and Kheer, and lots of them. Then 8 o'clock, deep fried sabji with puris, with halava, milk, fruit. Then lunchtime, at least 2 sabjis, samosas, rotis, 2 types of rice, 2 types of dal, and different sweets. And then at 4 o'clock, fruit and milk, and some more sweets. Then at, 6:30, more sabji with roti and halava and pakoras and chutney and another sweet. And then what, at about, I guess about 8ish or 8:30, deep fried sabji with puris and pakoras and chutney and more halava and milk and another sweet. And, you know, when I started listing these things out a few minutes ago, you know, some of you, I don't doubt, some of you were sitting there thinking, wow, that sounds good. What's the feast going to be today? But you try eating that 6 times, you won't last long. Either you'll become like a balloon, or you'll die, actually, because it's really. But Krishna, so, you know, he gets plenty, and in the temples, you know, in India, of course, there's so many temples, Krishna's being worshipped, and just us, ISKCON, we have 1,100, I think, temples. Not all of them have Radha and Krishna, but I mean, a lot of them, there you get these 6 offerings a day going on. So Krishna does not need your roti and beans curry. I mean, like, he doesn't need it for himself. He may accept it. He may accept it out of his kindness to benedict you. But, you know, he's not really worried. Is it kidney beans or gadra or dabla? You know. Don't mind me talking about this. And don't worry, because there will be a nice feast in due course too. So, yeah. So, you know, there's a very famous example, I'm sure so many of you, maybe all of you have heard of it. Just before the Battle of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna went to Hastinapur to try to negotiate peace. He had already tried a few times, but for the last time he was going to try to negotiate peace with Duryodhana, who's the chief of the bad guys. So he went there unannounced. He's just walking around, having a look around, and he met Duryodhana. Duryodhana's not exactly the king, he's the prince, but he's actually running the show. And Duryodhana, just to be polite, you know, he didn't like Krishna, but just to be polite, politically correct. Politics, you know, it translates politics, the art of being polite. Yeah. So he invited Krishna. Oh, we didn't know you were here. Please come to the palace for lunch. And Krishna said, sort of like, oh, okay, thank you. But he didn't really want to, because Duryodhana was not a devotee. He was really not a devotee at all. And even though there was going to be some sumptuous, very sumptuous royal feast, Krishna wasn't attracted. But then he met his devotee Vidura, who was also moving around the city, and Vidura also invited Krishna for lunch. And Vidura's great devotee, so Krishna was immediately attracted and agreed, yes, I'll come. So he came for lunch. The only thing was Vidura was extremely poor. He was very, very poor. And Krishna arrived there, and Vidura and his wife looked to see what they had, but they didn't really have anything much at all. They just had some bananas. So Vidura's wife was peeling the bananas, handing them to Vidura. Vidura's handing them to Krishna, and Krishna's eating. And that was it for lunch. But Vidura's wife, who's also a great devotee, she's in so much ecstasy. Our Lord has come to visit us at home. Oh, how wonderful. She's peeling the bananas, but she didn't notice she was throwing away the fruit and passing on the skin to her husband to give to Krishna. And Vidura was so ecstatic, he didn't notice. So he just handed over the skins. And Krishna was so ecstatic to be with his beloved devotees, he was eating the skins. And Krishna, one skin after the other, Krishna was saying, these are the best bananas I ever tasted. Now, I'm not suggesting that when you go home or, sometime quite soon, that you do that. Try out some banana skins. We don't normally eat them, do we? I don't. And I think there's a reason for that. Yeah. So, because they don't taste nice. Yeah, but so Krishna was extremely happy. It wasn't just okay. It wasn't even quite good. It wasn't even very good. He was just so happy because he doesn't exactly taste the taste. He tastes the love. He tastes the love. And for someone like Vidura or Vidura's wife, they have so much love that for the Lord it's just a feast in that sense, feasting on their love. Yeah. So, as was pointed out, as Krishna pointed out, it's not that he objects if things, for example, food is nicely done and, nicely cooked and everything is really of a high standard in that sense. But the main thing is the love. The main thing is definitely the love. And because cooking for the Lord is part of deity worship. Actually, kirtan before the deities is part of deity worship. It's part of deity worship. And like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada's spiritual master, he had his whole movement going, and they had 64 temples and hundreds of devotees. And some of them were really good singers. I'm not sure who's the best singer here in ISKCON Midrand. Who is it? Is it Balaram Prasad? Or I don't know if Yavat Prabhu's here, or maybe it's Mrs. Yavat. She's good. Radha Rasa. Or Lokanath. Lokanath's very good. But, they really had some good singers. Like traditional Bengali singers, really amazing. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, oftentimes he'd stop the kirtan and call on one of his other devotees who was very, very sincere, really from the heart, and call on him to sing, even though he couldn't really sing. Sometimes it happens, someone ends up singing, and they can't really sing. They sort of, not exactly sing backwards, but they get out of time, and every mantra the kirtan has to stop, so the mridanga player and the cartel players, they can catch up. You know? These things happen. But he would have the sincere ones sing, even if they couldn't sing, or couldn't sing well, you know, like that. So the main thing is the bhakti, the love. We were just, I just played, I don't think I can do it here. Play a little excerpt from a class of Prabhupada's, which he gave for a deity installation, and it's only like 2 minutes. Let me see if I can play it. Oops. Wait, Prabhupada. Hang on. Just hang on a sec. Oi. Now, how could we do this? Try and hold the mic over it, sort of, something. It's not the sound quality, it's the love. So, shall we give it a go? Anyway, try and listen carefully, because it's really deep. It's only 2 minutes or 1.5 or something.
Krishna, just like Mother Mama. You are talking like Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami at that time had no temple. He was hanging Siti on the tree. So, Madan Man was talking, saying Sanatana, you are bringing all these dry chapatis, and it is stale. And don't give me even little salt. How can I eat? Sanatana Goswami says, sir, where shall I go? Whatever I get, I offer you. You kindly accept. I cannot move, old man. So Krishna had to eat that. Because the bhakta is offering, he cannot refuse. Jimang bhaktya prajit. Real thing is bhakti. What you can offer to Krishna, everything belongs to Krishna. What you have got? What is your value? And what is the value of your things? It is nothing. Therefore, the real thing is bhaktya. Real thing is your feeling. Krishna, kindly take it. I have no qualification. I am most rotten fallen. But I applaud this thing for you. Please take. This will be accepted. Don't be puffed up. Always be careful. You are dealing with Krishna. That is my request. Thank you.
Whoops. The camera just got moved. The camera just got moved. I hope it's okay. All right. Okay, devotees, so you heard that. It's amazing, isn't it? That's amazing. The depth of feeling of Srila Prabhupada. So we're talking about the deity, serving the deity, and the first point is the deity is Krishna. Here, of course, we have the photos, but still the Lord is present. They're not just representational or something of that sort, symbolic. They're not just to remind us, but they're actually, the Lord is present. And what to speak, like in our temple at Lenasia, that you're there in front of the actual deities physically. But they are no less present here, actually, ultimately. Radha Radhanath. And Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Charu Maharaj once told me that Srila Prabhupada told him, Prabhupada raised a sort of rhetorical question, not like a real question, like I need to know something, but just for the sake of presentation, Prabhupada said, what is Krishna consciousness? What is it? And Prabhupada answered himself, he said, Krishna consciousness means developing a personal relationship with Krishna, disguised as a process. Disguised as a process. Process means you do this, you don't do that, step 1, step 2, step 3, and that's a process. But what we're doing in Krishna consciousness in general and with the deities is it's personal interaction with Krishna, just like we're all sitting here and we can all look at each other and interact. So that's personal relationship. So similarly with the deities. Now, you know what? The ladies made, a nice, or should I say, not bad effort to move forward. A little half-hearted, but that there's people wanting to come in and they're stuck. Can we move forward a bit further? Thank you. Thank you very much. And please forgive us for disturbing you. Yeah, okay. So the deity means Krishna's personally there. And there are stories, there's all sorts of stories. There are even stories in scripture of deities acting, speaking. There's numerous stories like that. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you've read Chaitanya Charitamrita, then there's the story of Madhavendra Puri locating the Gopal deity, and the deity appeared to him in a dream. Then there's the story of Sakshi Gopal in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there the devotee didn't just appear in the dream and speak, the deity actually physically spoke. And then, after that, the deity physically walked, literally, and not just, around the corner or something like that, but he walked from Vrindavan more or less to Jagannath Puri. It's in the vicinity of a couple of 1,000 kilometers. It really is a long way to walk. But the deity walked. And now he's there. Just before Puri in one village, he's there. So the deity can do that. And even in the picture, like I said, there's no real difference. We can worship the pictures. We don't have to worship like we sort of have to worship the actual deity form in the temple. We don't have to worship the pictures. We can just keep the pictures, in our house or like that, and that's acceptable. But it doesn't mean the deity is any less there. Or if you speak to the deity, that the deity hears you any less, then if you speak to the deity in the temple. These are transcendental facts, and the deity can, if you speak to the deity can reply. As a general rule, don't today after, the kirtan, or just a little later on, don't come up in front of the deity, speak to the deity and wait for Krishna to reply. Don't hold your breath, because we're not on a very high level. At least we're on some level, as opposed to, completely sort of flat out, leveled out. But we're on some level, therefore we're here, we're chanting, we're practicing. But we're not on that sort of level where we can interact. One time I was back when I was staying in Bhaktivedanta Mana, Prabhupada would come regularly, because he would stop in England when he was moving between India and America, and then America to India, or if he was coming into Europe, he'd always stop in London. So we would we'd see Prabhupada like several times in a year, and he'd always stay a few days, sometimes longer. Yeah. So one time Srila Prabhupada was there, and his Vyasasana was, and still is actually, directly opposite the altar, just like we see here. So Prabhupada was sitting on his Vyasasana, and he had just sung Jai Radha Madhava before the class, as we did just a little while ago. And everyone then bowed down and then sat up and sort of positioned themselves, and he waited for a moment till everyone was seated properly. And as he's sitting there, directly opposite the altar, Prabhupada's looking at the deities, Radha Gokulananda. And before he did anything else, like start the actual class, Srila Prabhupada, looking at the deities, said, Radha and Krishna are dancing very happily today. And all the devotees, we were sitting like on two sides, and there's a gap through the middle from Prabhupada to the altar, and we're sitting kind of facing into the center. So we don't have our backs to Prabhupada, and we don't have our backs to the deities. And so everyone's sitting there but looking at Prabhupada, because he's beginning the class. And Prabhupada said, Radha and Krishna are dancing very happily this morning. And everyone's looking at Prabhupada, and everyone's looking at Radha and Krishna to see them dancing very happily. But as far as we could see, they were standing there just like we see here, just like normal. Because we're not on the level of Srila Prabhupada. We're really not. And that little recording we heard, maybe that gives us a bit of a glimpse into that at least. Yeah. Prabhupada's on another level altogether, completely, compared to us. So, yes, so the great devotees, very elevated devotees, they have all these types of exchanges from time to time with deities. They speak to the deity replies. Yes. We speak to the deity hears. The deity may respond in one way or another, whenever. Or if we just, within our minds, we just offer a prayer, the deity may well respond, reciprocate at some point. Could be even on the spot, but generally a bit later, some time. But that sort of immediate reciprocation is there generally between the Lord in the deity form and the great devotees, the very advanced devotees. So because he's there, he's present, he's real. And Srimati Radharani also is present and real, and they can hear you. Sometimes we tell the funny little, a story you could say, of the husband and the wife. It's in the morning, the husband's going off to work, and so they have a little discussion. What shall we have for dinner tonight? What would you like? And husband says, well, how about roti and beans curries? We were talking about it, and it's extremely popular. And I like it myself. I had it, was it yesterday or the day before? So, okay, yeah, roti and beans curry. Okay, fine, wife says, roti, beans curry. And husband then goes to work, and being, of course, a very faithful husband, on his desk, what does he have, devotees tell me? A picture of his wife. Well done. Yes, because he's a very faithful husband, very dedicated. So, but during the course of the day, he thinks, roti and beans curry, look, I had it the other day. Let's have something different. So he looks at the picture of his wife on his desk and says, tonight, let's not have roti and beans curry. Let's have, what should we have? Butter paneer and puris. How's that? Butter paneer and puris and sweet corn and paneer kachoris with chutney. How does that sound? I don't want to disturb it. I can see some of you affected by this. Don't worry, the feast won't be long. So but he just looks at the picture and he tells his wife, let's have butter paneer, etc., like that. So when he goes home that night, and devotees, take a guess what he gets. Beans, curry, and roti. He says, wait a minute. Didn't you hear what I said later? What? What did you say? Well, no, she didn't hear because she's not present in her picture. Yeah, she's not present. Her picture is just, a sort of chemical process, some sort of representation like that. And it reminds, but it doesn't do really anything more than remind. It's not like with the deity. Yeah. So anyway, the deity is real, and of course, like we said, like Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness means developing a personal relationship with Krishna disguised as a process. Disguised as a process means got to get up early in the morning, got to chant your rounds, got to follow the regulative principles, and, there are different standard types of activities, and if you're doing actual deity worship, particularly in one of our temples, then the Mangal Arati has to be at 4:30, and if it's not, you've failed. It's a failure on your part. Prabhupada, if you've read Prabhupada Leelamrita, you might remember when the Krishna Balaram temple was opened in Vrindavan, Prabhupada stayed on for, maybe a couple of weeks or something to just check that, the functioning, when it was really functioning fully, that it was functioning properly. So, he he would come, of course, to the deity greeting every morning, 7:15. So one time he was there at the deity greeting, and he turned to the temple president, and the curtains had not opened, but they were just about to, like they're ringing the bells and say, the curtain's going to open just right now. And Prabhupada asked the president, what is the time? Temple president said, 7:15, Prabhupada, which is the right time. And Prabhupada said, and how many seconds? And president said, and 30 seconds, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, you're late. Really? Yeah. And this is not exactly related, but he would go around, check things out, and sometimes he'd find lights in places which are not really inside, they're kind of partially outside, but they'd be left on, after the sun's risen or like that. And so one time he noticed one light in the temple room. If you're familiar with the Krishna Balaram temple, there's a big courtyard in the center and then walkways on either side. So there are lights there for when it's night, so people can see. But this light, it was like 8:30 or 9 after the morning program, and the light was still on. And Prabhupada pointed out to the temple president, look, the light is on. What are we going to do about that? And the president didn't say, we're going to switch it off, Prabhupada. The president said, Srila Prabhupada, we will become Krishna conscious, thinking this is a very sort of a deeper type of response. And Prabhupada said, an impractical suggestion. All you got to do is, okay, thank you. All you got to do is switch the switch off. Right, okay. So, but now, let me just tell you a couple of stories about devotees and deities. Great devotees and deities. There's one very nice story. One devotee, Lokanath, very well. Lokanath Goswami, who was, he and another devotee, Bhugaba Goswami, they were the first devotees personally sent by Prabhupada from Bengal. They were Bengalis, but he sent them to Vrindavan to start the work of uncovering the lost pastime places and re-establishing the glory of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Before the 6 Goswamis came, they came a good few years before the 6 Goswamis started coming. So Lokanath Goswami, he was there, and Bhugaba was staying elsewhere. Lokanath Goswami was staying in a place called Umarao, which nowadays it's generally known as Kaira, if you know your Vraj Mandala. Yeah. So he was staying there by a kund, Kishori Kund, but he's just staying on his own under a tree. He didn't even have a hut. He didn't have anything, basically, at all. And he didn't have a deity to worship, but he really wanted to. And one day, the explanation is it was actually Lord Chaitanya, but having taken the form of a village boy, young fellow, just walked up to him with a deity of Krishna small deity like this sort of size, just walked up to him and said, "Here, take this," whack. And wow, okay. And before, he looked up to say thank you or, what's going on, and the boy had vanished. So, anyway, now Lokanath's looking at this deity and what to do, because I have nothing. And the deity spoke to him. And the deity said that, "I've been staying nearby here and watching you, and I could see you weren't really satisfied. So here, I've come to you. And yeah, I've come to you. So now feed me." Very direct. So Lokanath's just, beyond astonished. But the deity then, again, the deity says, "Come on, feed me." So Lokanath has to go gather some ingredients and then put something together and offer some food to the deity, like cooked food to the deity. So he did that hurriedly, and then the deity said, "All right, now after eating I want to lie down and have a little rest." It is considered, it depends, but often it's considered civilized after eating, particularly lunch, to lie down for a while. Lord Chaitanya, after lunch, every day, he would lie down for a while. So yeah, I want to lie down, prepare a bed for me. Lokanath Goswami was just lying literally on the ground. But he gathered some flowers and made a bed of flowers and lay the deity down. So it was a very personal relationship. And Lokanath Goswami, he had no temple, he had not even a little hut or anything. He was literally under a tree. But he got some cloth and made, like you could say, a larger sized bead bag sort of thing, where you can put your hand in one side and this finger, this finger, right? It goes out. Because this finger is considered, let's just say, well, like more or less kind of permanently contaminated. Yeah. So therefore, like on your bead bags, there's a little hole on the other side. And it's for this finger. So it was like that too, in this case. And we wander around, you see us wandering around, sort of wandering around, chanting on our beads, gazing around here and there. He would wander around. I don't think he was just gazing around, but he would wander around with his hand in the bag, and he wasn't chanting on his beads. He was massaging the body of the deity as he walked around. Yeah. And he's famous for that. And that deity, and that bag with the deity inside, it was effulgent, it glowed. And he became famous for that. And that deity is still, he's now in Jaipur actually. Vinod, Radha Vinod. Very beautiful little deity. So, wherever there are deities, even here where there are sort of just photos, but the Lord is present, and we need to accept that within our hearts and relate in those terms in very responsible ways. No nonsense. If you've got photos of deities in your lounge, where you keep your sacred television, then you must only, it would be best to only play Krishna conscious DVDs and not, Aishwarya and Abhishek, etc. Kuch kuch hota hai. Because then, just like if people sometimes devotees, they're living in a house with some companion or other or whoever who are meat eaters, and they're cooking meat, and we're in the process of cooking, the smell sort of goes around. So generally speaking, even if the devotees themselves are, very nice, they're very sincere and serious, but we won't let them have deities in the house, because, then the deity is exposed to that, and it's really gross, actually. So we have to take the deity seriously. And let me tell you, we should finish, I suppose. Huh? We can go on? Let me just tell you one more story. There are many stories. I'll just tell you a very short story. There was one great devotee, associate of Lord Chaitanya, Gauridas Pandit, and Lord Chaitanya personally instructed him, make deities of me and Nitai, Lord Nityananda. Get wood, like tree or something, and you make life-sized deities. So he did. He did, and they're the first Gaur-Nitai deities. That devotee was living in a town which is now called Ambikakalna, just south of Navadweep, in the Mayapur area. So, there's a number of stories about those deities, but Gauridas Pandit, he got it into his head that he wanted to cook for the deities, for Gauritai. He wanted to cook. So he did, on his own, like a full one-man show. In the morning, go out, get ingredients, bring them back, cut them up and wash them and all that, and then put them together and cook them. But not just, something like a simple one sabji, a roti or two, a little rice, a little dal, that sort of thing, just a simple little meal. He would cook several vegetable preparations and a few types of rice, a few types of dal. Oh yeah. Different types of kachoris, samosas, and different chutneys. Wow. And different sweets. And he would make single-handedly from the ground up, so to speak. He'd make a feast every day for Gauritai. And when it was ready, it would be like 5 in the afternoon or something. It was really a major operation for one person. Finally, maybe say 5 o'clock, he'd offer it in front of the deities. And by that time, he was finished. He was exhausted. But he'd do a nice offering there, and then he'd distribute the prasad. So one day, devotees, he's put the plate in front or whatever, like a big tray or some sort of something, in front of the deities with all these preparations. And he's looking up at the deities, he's about to start chanting the mantras. But then suddenly Lord Chaitanya spoke to him and said, Gauridas, you don't need to cook so many things. We don't need it. No, it's very nice, we're happy to get it, but we don't need it, and we don't like to see you so exhausted. And you can't then, you've had it for the rest of the day. Then you can do if you do less cooking, then you can do some kirtan for us. We'd love to hear some of your kirtan. Or you could read some shastra. There's different things you could do, which you're not able to do now because you're just too tired from all this cooking and all. So why don't you, we'll be happy if you just do, because Lord Chaitanya is Bengali, if you just do some plain white rice and some spinach, we'll be happy. We'll be very happy. And then you can do some kirtan, etc. And Gauridas, he's on his knees, he's looking up at the deity of Lord Chaitanya, and Gauridas says, so, you don't like my cooking, do you? And Lord Chaitanya said, no, we love your cooking. We just don't like to see you so tired. And Gauridas said, I know, you don't like my cooking. And Lord Nityananda then spoke, Gauridas, we love your cooking. It is just wonderful. But we want to hear your kirtan sometime. And Gauridas looked at him and he said, you don't like my cooking either, do you? No, we both love your cooking. So I went back and forth a bit. And in the end, they told Gauridas, listen, you just do whatever you like. It's okay. We'll accept it. Just carry on. Yeah, but now this is another level of Krishna consciousness. But even though we're not at all on that level, still, the deities are watching us. Yeah, right now. They're watching us. And they're thinking, okay, let's see. Oh, that's Vaishnavi over there. She's having exams now, isn't she? Because he knows. I wonder if she's chanting her rounds during the exams. Anyway, it's okay. He's checking us all out. He's checking us all out. Because he knows us. He knows each of us by name. Even, sometimes when during initiation someone is given a name, and sometimes it's a little complicated name, and they can't remember their name. But Krishna knows your name. Don't worry. Yeah. So Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Srimati Radharani, Lord Nrsimhadev, they know us personally. They know each and every one of us better than we know ourselves. And they know what's good for us better than we know ourselves, and what's bad for us also. And they're very concerned about us. They're very, very concerned. Are my devotees, or is my devotee sort of dilly-dallying around, kind of, still involved with material things and all that? Or is he or she really, really trying to come to a higher standard? And even without being asked, sometimes he intervenes. Yeah, he definitely does. Sometimes he intervenes. Like Dinabandhu Prabhu from Vrindavan was telling us in Durban when he came years ago, of this. When he was first in the temple in a place called Portland on the west coast of America. And they had a cook who was a really good cook, the temple cook. He was a really good cook, but he was really attached to being recognized as a really good cook. So whenever he cooked some prasadam for the devotees, he'd always go around and ask, how is it? And he's just fishing for compliments. So one day, he made some halava, and it was served to the devotee. Well, then he came out, and the halava's there. Now he's watching. And the first devotee was served some halava, and the cook's watching for the reaction. Hopefully a good reaction, big smile or something. But this devotee took one mouthful and made such a face like, ugh, what is this? And spat it out. Because you know why? Instead of putting sugar in the halava, he put salt. And salt is much stronger in taste than sugar, much stronger, and not so pleasant. So, they had to throw away the halava. They tried to feed it to the animals. The animals just sniffed at it, and they wouldn't touch it. Seriously. So what they did, they put it on the roots of some of the local trees around the block. And we don't know what the trees thought of it, but anyway. So the thing is, Krishna intervenes sometimes. If he feels we need some proactive intervention to help us deal with something, and he does. Yeah. So anyway, devotees, try to bear these things in mind, because they are really such important parts. It's not that's not all that Krishna consciousness is, but it's a very important part about the deities and the forms of the Lord, even the pictures in the books or in the calendars. The Lord is there. Therefore, these things have to be treated like that. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki